Oh, hey guys. Yeah. Anyways, I'm multitasking. Fuck, I don't even know what the fuck. Anyway, alright. So I'm just gonna. Fuck it. Anyways, this video is for entertainment and education purposes only. Any and everything I say could be wrong. Do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Okay, so let's go back to politics and religion, because that's like so much of everything. In a way, you could almost say that that is everything. There's a Rush song. I can't remember the name of this, or I don't know the name of the song. But there's a lyric in the song that says, it basically says, money is the age-old religion. And if you can kind of like, that's kind of an abstract look at the world we live in. But if you have abstract thought, then you can consider that idea of money being the age-old religion or an age-old religion. And when you look at it like that, then you can kind of entertain the idea that everything is religion and politics. You know, if money is a religion, which I would argue it is, but that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion, okay? So anyways, so politics and religion. I was reviewing one of my videos I'd done in the past week. Yeah, politics and religion. Okay, and I was talking about like with the religion of Christianity, that the Bible places a strong emphasis on caring for the poor. And that's not even arguable. The only way a person could argue that is by saying, well, even though the Bible says that, that's just the exoteric, because the esoteric meaning of that is evil. It's based in Luciferianism, and it's all a conspiracy to get you to care about the poor so that you'll forget about yourself and blah blah, on and on. So when you start arguing and debating about the esoteric meaning behind the exoteric, then that becomes all speculation. Nobody knows. But you can look at the exoteric in the Bible and be like, well, yes, on a surface level, the Bible places a strong emphasis on caring for the poor. And you can't really argue that unless you want to start talking about, well, the real hidden meaning behind it is blah, 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 blah. But then that's all speculation. That's all that's up for endless debate that will never be, it'll never be confirmed or denied one way or another. It's just something that it can have endless debate on. But if you look at the exoteric of the Bible, it is undeniable that the Bible places a strong emphasis on caring for the poor. And it's the same with politics. Like if you look at the Democrat liberal left, in a general sense, the Democrat liberal left places a strong emphasis on equality, for example. And then if you look at like Republican, conservative, right-leaning, the conservative places a strong emphasis on constitutional rights. Okay. Now, when we look at these things, when we look at these three things, the Christian Bible places a strong emphasis on caring for the poor. The liberal leftist Democrat ideology places a strong emphasis on equality for all. The conservative, right-leaning places a strong emphasis on constitutional rights. Okay, these things are basically undeniable. See, they try to obfuscate and all this stuff. Like lately, they've changed the word from equality to equity, which is even most liberals know that's a total scam. That's just because. And so now let's get into this. I don't want to go too far off on equity versus equality. I'm a Gen Xer. All Gen Xers and generations before and even millennials and a lot of Zoomers and stuff all understand that the liberal leftist Democrat ideology is based in equality. The idea of equal right, equality for everyone, okay? And everybody knows that the Bible places a strong emphasis on caring for the poor, okay? Conservatives place a strong emphasis on constitutional rights. But see, these are not people, these are ideas. Christianity, liberalism, conservatism. See, these are not people, these are ideas. So Christianity places a strong emphasis on caring for the poor. Liberalism places a strong emphasis on equality, right? Conservatism places a strong emphasis on constitution, on the Constitution, constitutional rights. See, these are ideas. And when you have people that claim that they espouse that they carry these principles with them in their life. Like Christians claim to be for Christianity. Therefore, by claiming Christian, they're claiming that they place a strong emphasis on caring for the poor. But we all see that Christians, in a general sense, ignore the poor. So they don't walk their talk. Okay. Well, it's the same with politics. Liberals. Everybody pretty much generally knows that liberals, the hill that they're dying on is equality. But do liberals actually walk their talk? Well, no, they don't. When are they standing up for equality in regards to homelessness? Oh, you'll have big marches for equality for black people. You'll have all these big marches, vagina hat marches for equality for women. Big marches for equality for transgenders and gays, all these. But when have you ever seen a big march for equality for homeless people? Never. The one time a popular public leader tried to do that, he was assassinated for it. His name was Martin Luther King. And most people don't know this. He was assassinated days before he was set to launch the Poor People's Campaign, which was exactly that, a demand for equal rights for poor people. And Martin Luther King was assassinated days before Martin Luther King's Poor People's Campaign was set to roll out on the Capitol lawn in Washington, D.C. See, and most people don't know that. And the reason most people don't know that is because they don't teach that in school. And the reason they don't teach that in school, well, you tell me why they don't teach that in school. Because I already know why. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to fucking figure it out, okay? And then conservatism is the same. They claim they care about, all this is about constitutional rights, but yet when you look at homeless constitutional rights are violated on an hourly basis en masse. It is illegal for homeless people to sleep. It is illegal for homeless people to panhandle. It is illegal for homeless people to sit down. It is illegal for homeless people to stand still. So massive constitutional rights violation, and you never see any conservative ever talking about that while they go on and on and on about constitutional rights. See, what it is it's their constitutional rights that are important, not Americans' constitutional rights. Same with liberals. It's their equal rights that are in question, not Americans' equal rights. And it's the same with Christians. It's their economic, not poor people. Well, there's no concern for poor people with Christians at all. This is in a general way. In a general way. And you can experiment with this all throughout life. You can go, I've done it myself for years and years. Brought homelessness into the discussions on equal rights, and I got called a fascist. Bring the subject of homeless constitutional rights in the arena of conservatives and conservatism and got called a communist. You go into these circles of these so-called Christians and you talk about homelessness and poverty, and all they do is they just hypocritically condemn the homeless, that the homeless are sinners that brought all the homelessness upon themselves and they don't deserve any mercy and all this shit. It's the same, you know. And so there really are very few true liberals. None of these people walk their talk. All these so-called Christians, they don't walk their talk. And you can easily observe this by using poverty as a measurement. You know, just like Gandhi said, you can measure a society by how it treats its poor. You can measure the Christian society by how Christians treat the poor. You can measure the liberal Democrat society by how that society treats its poor. You can measure the conservative society by how conservatives treat the poor, treat the U.S. citizens who are living in poverty and homelessness. You can measure these societies by how they treat their poor. You know, when only poor people's constitutional rights are violated, and these so-called conservatives and constitutionalists, they completely ignore it. Well, you can measure how much they actually care about the Constitution by how you know, that society treats the poor people. When poor people's constitutional rights are constantly violated, none of these constitutionalists give a fuck. They're nowhere to be found. Same with liberals and Democrats. When homeless people's equal rights are trampled and violated and ignored, where are the liberals? They're nowhere to be found. See, none of these people walk their talk. But they talk all the time, don't they? They talk all this big talk about how much they care about equality. They talk all this big talk about how much they care about constitutional rights. They talk all this big talk about how much they care about Jesus Christ and Christianity. But they don't walk their talk. And you can measure this by observing how they treat the subject of poverty and how they treat poor people and homeless people. See? So, but that's all anybody ever talks about is politics and religion. And they all perpetually ignore the homeless poor. But yet when you look at it, that's a complete contradiction for them to ignore the homeless poor. If their whole thing is about equality, well, nobody suffers more inequality than the homeless poor in this country. Same with constitutionalists and conservatives. They care so much about the Constitution. Well, if they did, then they would be observing the constitutional rights violations of all these homeless people. But they completely ignore it. They're so ignorant, they don't even know that homeless people's constitutional rights are violated. That's how ignorant these people are. But they claim that they're the opposite of ignorant. They claim that they're totally awake and red-pilled and stuff. Like all these people, they're all liars. They're all ignorant. They're all fucking just like head in the sand. They're all just retards. They're total fucking retards. And it's the same with Christians. They claim they care so much about the Bible and Jesus and all this shit. But you can measure the authenticity of their claims by how they treat the poor. The Bible places a strong emphasis on caring for the poor. Liberalism places a strong emphasis on caring for equality for all people. Conservatives places a strong emphasis on constitutional rights for everyone. But none of these people ever walk their talk. And they're always the loudest motherfuckers. They always have the most followers, the biggest audiences. And they're always talking the most talk. And it's all bullshit. None of these people ever walk their talk. And all you have to do is look at how they treat the poor. Gandhi was right. No matter how much Gandhi was wrong about this, that, and the other thing, one thing Gandhi was absolutely 100% correct on is you can measure any society, whether it's conservative, liberal, Christian, or otherwise, you can measure that society by how it treats its poor. If there is a philosophy that rejects poor people, well, then all these people would be walking their talk. If the Constitution was about ignoring constitutional rights for homeless people, well, then constitutionalists are totally correct. They're sound in their action. If equality the idea of equality is based in ignoring equality when it comes to the homeless poor, well then all these liberals, they are sound in their actions. And if the Bible is about rejecting the poor and ignoring the poor and looking at the homeless poor as that they brought it upon themselves and they deserve no mercy, if that's what the Bible says, well then all these Christians, all these self-proclaimed Christians, they are sound in their actions. They are all walking their talk. But if it's the reversal, then practically none of them are walking their talk. Like it would be, they would be needles in haystacks. Any one of those so-called proclaimed Christians, liberals, or conservatives that were actually walking their talk, they would be like a needle in a haystack. And that's the problem with all this talk about politics and religion. And then people try to, talk, well, let's talk about video games then, or something. It's like, okay, yeah. And that all goes back to politics and religion anyways, because then they're online gamers and they're talking about how, well, some big influencer was saying this while they were playing video games and talking about this political thing and this religious thing and all that. Everything is politics and religion. And it's all bullshit, dude. So anyways, what the fuck ever, right? Whatever.